This week, we are diving into more maintaining your ideal weight goodness on the Thin Thinking podcast with our guest, Julie Trainer. My desire with the Autumn series is to bring you the inner journey of people who have been successfully maintaining so that you not only believe you can get there, but also know the mindset that keeps you there. So learn how Julie's weight journey has encouraged her to be more confident and to take bolder risks, like starting her own podcast. And now she's going to be on a TED Talk. We don't talk about that in the episode because that just happened, but how cool is that? So here in the month of October, grab your hot cup of tea and come on in. Did you know that our struggle with weight doesn't start with the food on your plate or get fixed in the gym? 80% of our weight struggle is mental. That's right. The key to unlocking long-term weight release and management begins in your mind. Hi there, I'm Rita Black. I'm a clinical hypnotherapist, weight loss expert, best-selling author, and the creator of the Shift Weight Mastery process. And not only have I helped thousands of people over the past 20 years achieve long-term weight mastery, I am also a former weight struggler, carb addict, and binge eater. And after 2 decades of failed diets and fad weight loss programs, I lost 40 pounds with the help of hypnosis. Not only did I release all that weight, I have kept it off for 25 years. Enter the Thin Thinking podcast, where you too will learn how to remove the mental roadblocks that keep you struggling. I'll give you the thin thinking tools, skills, and insights to help you develop the mindset you need, not only to achieve your ideal weight, but to stay there long term and live your best life. Hello and welcome, everybody. Veteran listeners and new listeners alike, thank you for joining us. And please do me a favor and give us a review. I don't ask that often, but I would really love to hear from you and let us know how you're enjoying the show. I really appreciate all of you who have taken the time. It really is a help to let others know about us, and also please share with your friends. It is actually, interestingly, the number one way people do find out about us. So share the shift. Share something thinking goodness, and spread the love. Okay, now, I have had many students who have been in maintenance now for a while. In my membership, we actually have a special group for them to touch base with each other. And a shout out to all of you weight maintainers. And people wonder why we have such a high number of people who have never had success before with weight, being able to reach their ideal weight and then maintain over time. And that is why I have interviewed a number of maintainers to make the whole process seem less unattainable and shrouded in mystery. You will be hearing from a few more before the new year, because maybe you will be achieving your ideal weight soon and need to maintain as well. One of the reasons I think people achieve and maintain success, because with the shift, we are all about mindset first, focusing on building the skills of weight management and maintenance, not just focused on a number on the scale by eating a strict diet in a certain way and not learning anything in the process. Really, it's an inside-out journey. So once people know how to communicate with themselves, with their inner coach, not only are they able to manage their weight, but it also gives them the confidence to break out of the fear of taking risks in their life and be bold. And obviously to maintain their weight, because they have that ability to figure things out, to solve problems. Because ultimately, long-term permanent weight management isn't about being perfect. We all know that now. We know that it is about being consistent. And in the moment, being able to coach yourself through those sticky moments where in the past, maybe you would have said, oh, screw it, I'm out of here. I'll start over tomorrow, and just keep going. This is critical. But also this inner communication system does this really great sort of side effect, which is it bleeds over to other areas of people's lives, like their finances and their relationships. But also, I've seen so many shifters just take bold risks in their life once they've, kind of broken free from the shackles of all that inner abuse and uh, self disbelief, which, is really comes as commonplace with struggling with weight. So that is why you are going to love my inspiring conversation with Julie Trainer, who's such an awesome person. She's maintained her weight, but taken that next big step and started a podcast about, well, I'll let Julie let you know herself, shall we? But I do want to let you know that this was recorded before we knew that she got a TEDx talk. So she is going to be doing a TEDx very soon. And I'm so thrilled for her. What a big leap forward she has taken in her life. So let's talk to Julie. Hey, Julie, welcome to the Thin Thinking Pass. I should say welcome back. We have had you on before, but now that you are at your ideal weight and are maintaining, we want to dig deeper with that. How are you doing?
I'm wonderful, Rita. Thank you so much for having me. It's such a pleasure to be here.
Well, it's always a joy to have you on, and I just love your story. Would you mind telling everybody just a little bit about your weight release journey before we dive into your maintenance experience?
Sure. Yeah, well, my whole thing started, well, I've struggled with my weight forever. When I look back at pictures of me in my 20s, I thought I was overweight and I wasn't. But then, you have a baby, you get in a bad marriage, you pack it on, right? Um, so I had kind of resolved myself to just, oh, you know what, this is me. I'm just going to be overweight. But I wasn't happy in my body. I didn't feel good in my body. And when my friend invited me to her 60th birthday trip in Key West, she said, we'll need to get wetsuits. And my brain said, oh my gosh, no, this body is not going in a wetsuit. So I had this like, I had that, I feel like that was like this transformational moment in my brain. And I joined this weird boot camp thing. But when it ended, I felt like, well, what am I going to do now? You know? And that's when I was late night scrolling on Facebook and I saw you, and you spoke to exactly the thoughts I was having, which was that start over mentality. I was literally sitting on my couch thinking, oh, well, I'm just going to eat this bad thing today and I'm going to start over on Monday. And those were like literally your words. And I said, this woman, she's the real deal. She knows. So I signed up for Shift. And since then, I've released a total of 40 pounds and I've kept it off. I reached my ideal weight around April, May this
Mm,
year. So it's been
yeah,
almost a year. And I
yeah,
released 20 pounds more than I thought I was going to release.
I love that. Why was that? You just didn't believe your body could release that weight?
No, and I did that start and stop. I'd have days where it's like, "Oh, you were good, you were good today." But then it was that night eating that would get me. And another
Mm,
thing you said is that we gain most of our weight in the same place with the same people, pretty much at the same time even. And for me, it was that escape into late night eating and maybe watching TV and just being tired, that kind of thing.
yeah.
And that's probably where most of it got put on.
Yeah, more than likely. You're so right that we are little target spots, and when we can really problem solve them, then they don't become problems anymore. Isn't that
Yeah,
amazing?
it is amazing. Yes.
So now we are talking about maintenance, and I want to hear, like, as you were approaching your ideal weight, because it's an approach. How How were you feeling about this idea of maintaining your weight? Like, did you believe you could? Were you afraid? What were kind of thoughts that were going through your mind?
I was kind of afraid actually, because I was so strict with my tracking and I was at this calorie budget. And then when I reached maintenance, when I recalculated it said I could have more calories. And I was a little afraid to have more calories. I've gotten over that though. Um, but yeah, I had set a goal of 20 pounds and then but I wasn't sure what is my ideal weight because the weight I'm at now was beyond my wildest dreams. It wasn't a weight it's below my high school weight and it's not a weight goal that I ever would have set, but
Mm,
I was able to keep doing it because it wasn't hard. I had
Right.
made the shift in my mind and in my relationship to food. And I thought, well, what if I just keep going? And then and then my body kind of let me know this is where I want to be. This is
Mm,
our ideal weight. And I feel like what's happened for me now, or I would even say what is still happening for me, is that I've internalized the shift, and I have a sense of how much I can eat. Um, I feel much safer if I log my food, but
hmm
I have to admit that there have been some days when my daughter visits, there have been some days where I gotten a little bit off with my
hmm
tracking, but that's
hmm
the great thing about the shift is that you can always get back on. And
Yeah.
I haven't gained weight. So even if I missed my logging, I think that I am starting to really trust myself
Yeah.
that,
Right. I
yeah.
mean, I want to talk about that because I do think that we do use tracking with Shift, but why we do it isn't like, counting calories on a diet. It's more for what you're talking about is like getting cognitively correct about like how much your body really needs. And when you have the data, when you can look at it and go, oh, okay, this is what I need, then you can start to, once you get to a place of confidence, you can your brain and body kind of know, oh, okay, this is about the right amount. But it's
Mhm.
because you've taken that data, you've kind of internalized it, but you have to sort of get there first because just intuitively eating doesn't work because
No.
we can wildly overeat what our body needs intuitively eating. But this is sort of like a synthesis or an integration of intuitive eating, but also like just cognitively using the brain in a correct way. So the brain is like, oh, okay, I get it. This is what we need. And this is, and then once you get to where you're saying that place where you're like, I'm good. This is good. This is a good weight. You can kind of lock in and have that just right amount.
Mhm.
And yeah, because I mean, I'm the same Julie, and I think most people who are on their maintenance journey aren't logging every day for sure. They'll go for periods of time where they aren't logging. But what we use logging for is like when you said, like when you feel like, oh, I've gotten off track, and or maybe you see the scale go up, or you feel like you're eating a little more out of control or whatever. When you bring back the logging, it pulls the brain back into that rational thinking mode. And then you can then kind of relock in what you're doing for a while and get your, reset your weight. Or you said you didn't gain weight, which is great, but just to kind of like get good, get aligned. And then, so that will be what the landscape of, maintenance looks like. For most people, it will be not. I think we work very diligently to get to where we want to, and that does take tracking and getting cognitively correct. But once you're there, you can let off the diligence and ease into what you're talking about, which is sort of this integration of
Yeah. You've got the data, you've got the science now, and it takes the emotion out of it. It's like, oh,
exactly
okay. It's like I love your gas tank analogy. You wouldn't overfill your gas tank. You know,
right.
it's. I don't think I had that sense before of this. This is what my body needs to function. It doesn't
Hmm.
need more than that, and I'm satisfied with the amounts. I don't like feeling over full. I
Hmm.
don't think I ever did, but I felt out of control before. And now I'm like, oh, I listen to my body and say, oh, okay, this is where you stop. Yeah, I
Yeah.
didn't, that was a gift from Shift. I didn't have that before. I didn't have an
Yeah,
off
that's
switch.
amazing. Well, and you probably are more in tune with trigger foods and foods that also kind of set off the part of the brain that says, I don't care if you're full, I'm going to keep eating, and I think that's also a big piece of it. Um, so what are some, like, if you were going to say, as you head into continuing to maintain, what was it like to, because I think this is a big thing for a lot of people, get on the scale and being, it's not about releasing weight anymore. Like how did you change your vision to match your like to incentivize yourself. Because I think a lot of people might get to their ideal weight and either have imposter syndrome, like, I shouldn't be here. I don't really know what to do. And I mean, with Shift, you know what to do. So that's the good news. But also just this whole idea of being a lighter person and then resetting that vision to like where you're going. Because I know you've stepped into a lot of stuff too, like you've changed the vision. So maybe can you speak to that a little bit?
Yeah, I do weigh every morning or at least every other at the
Mhm.
same time. And it's a little check-in, just make sure that, things are
Yeah.
where they need to be. And my vision, yeah, it has changed. And well, one of the things I had to do, I literally had to buy a whole new wardrobe, which was really fun. It was
Yeah.
really fun, but it was also scary. It's like, oh, well, what if I buy these clothes and then all of a sudden, like, they don't fit, you know what I mean, anymore?
Mm,
But and I got rid of all the big clothes. I was like, I'm not gonna need these. So that was a huge level of trust. And so part of my vision is like, I really like the new clothes and I like that they're
oh, that's
comfortable. Oh, I was in a store yesterday and I love shopping the Kohl's clearance racks, and I saw this really cute pair of white capris and they were a 14 and I tried them on and they were just way too big. I was like, well,
uh,
I guess I need a 12 now. So yeah,
that's
I have some
fantastic.
12s, which is like I was an 18. So yeah, so my vision is that I like is that I want to stay here. And I trust that
Mhm.
I can stay here. So, when the shift we talk about your like sort of future vision, and I had that vision of me and looking really good in this wetsuit. And that really carried me a long way. And now my vision is really just that I like this and I want to stay here. And I I'm not giving this up for anything. I'm not going to say it was hard to get here, but at the same time, it took a long time, not just this year. It took a long time over my lifetime, I think, to get to a place where I was even ready for shift. So,
Yeah. I
yeah.
think that's a really good point, and I think a lot of people carry a lot of what they consider their failure story around with them, and then, but what you're speaking to is the fact that when you, most people who have like what you have, they've released weight and now they're in a good place and they've owned their ideal weight, they can look back at all those what they used to see as failure stories as part of their success story.
Yeah.
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 It's a
Hmm.
whole reframe of what seeing the past in a more powerful way, like all of those lessons that you learned and all of the readiness that took you to this point of stepping
Hmm.
into yourself. Now, Julie, tell us about your big adventure that like part of your journey has been well, you will tell us about I know this shift helped a little bit, but tell us about like what you're up to because I think this is so exciting that you stepped into this identity and part of your identity was opening up a whole new door for your future.
Yeah, yeah, it really was. And 100%, I don't think that I would have done what I'm doing now if I hadn't found the shift. So, just a quick background, I was a psychology major. I've always been interested in how the mind works. I was a theater kid, and I'm a writer, and I will be published. I'm not published yet, but I will be published. So all those things wrapped up together after, well, so my parents died, my mom in 2020, my dad in 2021. So it was during COVID and all that. And after sort of my year of like my grieving process, I had this idea that I wanted to start a podcast and talk about loss, but I also didn't have the confidence to do it. And after I after I found the shift and started to release weight, I met another a woman who was really supportive in helping people do the thing is what she calls it, but whatever the thing is. And my thing was I want to have a podcast, and it's called The Hidden Gifts of Loss, and it's really starting to take off. And I did have imposter syndrome and everything, but now when I do sometimes I do them as video, and when I see myself, like right now, I see myself, I don't see an overweight person. So I have that confidence to be seen, right? I feel like when we're overweight, we're kind of hiding. You know,
Mm.
I think a lot of deep psychological reasons why people gain weight is like a protection and a like, I just want to be invisible. So if I hide behind this wall, I'm not going to put myself out there in the world. So it's like you
Yeah.
hold yourself back. So after shedding that, I started this podcast and it is so much fun. And sometimes I'm like, wow, I think I always had this, like, I wanted to put myself out there because of all those things in my background, but yeah, I just couldn't do it. And Shift was
Cool.
huge, huge, huge in getting me past that and able to go out into the world and do this thing that I love.
Ah, so good. I love that. And I'm so proud of you.
Thank you.
Um, so if somebody's listening to you, what advice would you give anyone heading into their like maybe they're 10 pounds above their ideal weight, or as they're heading into like what kind of advice would you give to them about the journey ahead?
Okay, so the thing that this shift really gave me was consistency because of the
Mhm.
hypnosis and the meditation, it really got in my head. And I hear those things still, like, yeah, when you're full, you're full, or just there's so much gold in what you give us. And so I had never been able to do anything long enough to get the result that I wanted. And the thing
Mm,
is, if you're 10 pounds away, or even if you're 50 pounds away, the thing is, if you stay with it, you're going to get the weight release that you want. I think that that's key. And one of the key things with that is we're all going to get off track. This is who we've been our whole lives. So those certain foods are gonna call to us, and it's gonna happen. I mean, it's happened a bunch of times to me, but the thing is, when it happens, I don't beat myself up and I don't see it as a failure. You've taken like the emotion out of it. It's like, oh, I got off track. Okay, that used to be permission to stay off track. And I
right.
could stay off track for 2 years, you know what I mean? Like when I was going through the death of my parents, yeah, comfort, just give me comfort, and what's my first comfort? It was going to be food. And yeah, so I would say consistency. That would be my advice, is just don't give up, just stay with it. You have all the support that you need. Um, so trust the process. If you get off track, and you can always reach out for help. There's so much support in the shift. And so, yeah, just don't give up. Just stick with it and you'll get there.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for coming on today. It's been such a pleasure to have you back. And if you want to catch Julie on her podcast, Hidden Gifts of Loss, is that correct?
Yes, that's it.
Okay.
Uh-huh.
And we'll have you back on to plug your book when it's ready.
Thank
Uh,
you.
and it's going to be called The Hidden Gifts of Loss as well. But what's the subhead? Because it's so good.
Oh, it's how I lost my parents and found myself.
Oh, so good. Number one
Thank you.
bestseller. I see it.
Oh my gosh, thank you.
All right. Well, thank you, Julie. All right, you guys, remember that we're all here together. Alone we diet, together we shift. Have an amazing week, and remember that the key, and probably the only key to unlocking the door of the weight struggle, is inside you. So keep listening and find it. Thanks for listening to the Thin Thinking Podcast. Did that episode go by way too fast for you? If so, and you want to dive deeper into the mindset of long-term weight release, head on over to www.shiftweightmastery.com. That's www.shiftweightmastery.com, where you'll find numerous tools and resources to help you unlock your mind for permanent weight release, tips, strategies, and more. And be sure to check the show notes to learn more about my book, From Fat to Thin Thinking: Unlock Your Mind for Permanent Weight Loss, and to learn how to subscribe to the podcast so that you never miss an episode.